Hey guys, welcome to Get Busy Watching. I'm your host, Honest Dan. Let's talk movies. Welcome to week 4 of my Halloween special. Let's get things started. Number 1. Don't Look Now. Never seen it, but a horror movie with a younger Donald Sutherland? Alright, okay, show me what you got. John and Laura Baxter have seemingly moved on after the death of their young daughter, Christine. However, after a chance encounter with a woman and her blind sister, who claims to be psychic, tells Laura that she's seen their daughter. Soon, Laura finds herself in a happier state, but leaves John troubled over Laura easily believing these two strange women. But soon, John begins to see ghostly visions of Christine as well. I don't like it, but this is probably because I don't think this is a horror film. I would consider it a psychological drama with hints of fantasy and hints of horror. The reason I say this is because there's nothing that can even be remotely considered scary until the very end, but that feels forced as hell. Even these ghostly images of Christine only appear a couple of times throughout the flick. The story doesn't even feel like it's framed like a horror, just a drama about a couple moving on from the death of a child and one of them believing that the ghost of that child is still among them. But there's no atmosphere to it, not even a cheap jump scare to remind me that this is, in fact, a horror flick. Yeah, sure, the acting from both Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie are wonderful, but it just wasn't enough to keep me interested because I'm constantly waiting for something scary to happen in this near 2-hour movie. But it never does, unless you count some incredibly uncomfortable acting. Not my cup of tea. I know I'm in the minority on that. Glad everyone else got something out of it. I didn't. My honest rating for Don't Look Now, a 2 out of 5. Number 2. Alice, Sweet Alice. Never seen or even heard of it, but heard it was good. Let's see if I agree. Set in 1961, emotionally volatile 12-year-old Alice becomes the primary suspect in the death of her younger sister Karen, who was the last person to see Karen alive, and only her mother Catherine and her father Dominic believe that she's innocent. While the police are on the case, Dominic also conducts his own investigation to uncover the truth. It's okay. Look, all the pieces are there. I think this movie had the potential to be a truly great slasher, but the way said pieces are put together, I didn't find agreeable to my tastes. Let's start with the positives. I love the acting across the board. Linda Miller as the mom, Niles McMaster as the dad. They had very well written and likable characters that I could easily empathize with. And young Paula E. Shepherd as Alice really stole the show. With only 2 credits to her name, it's a wonder how Brooke Shields ended up becoming the famous one. She played the younger sister. Anyway, she perfectly bounced from being deranged, bitter, and even sympathetic in her own right. Shepherd was perfectly capable of leaving the question in our heads as to whether or not Alice really did murder Karen. So, what are my problems with the movie? It's hard to talk about without spoiling anything, but let's just say I feel like they lean too heavily on certain elements and then betray what is established, leading the story to beats that almost don't make sense and almost would have been better if they went a more traditional route with the writing. I know I'm not making much sense with that, so I'll just simply say that I do recommend this. It's certainly a slasher that can get people talking, and I bet most fans of the genre will enjoy it more than I would. Still, not a bad watch, and was worth it. My honest rating for Alice, Sweet Alice, a strong 3 out of 5. Number 3. Stephanie. I swapped out Eyes Without a Face for this because a 60s French film just felt like it wasn't jiving with me at the time. It kind of felt like I needed to be in the mood for it, and I just wasn't. So I opted for this Netflix movie instead. Knew nothing about it. I just know that it starred Frank Grillo and Anna Torv, who was a really compelling talent to have. So, here we go. Stephanie is a little girl who has seemingly been abandoned by her parents and lives carefree in her home alone, or perhaps not so alone, as both the corpse of her dead brother lays in his bedroom and an unseen monster seems to stalk her, which is lured by negative thoughts and noise. Eventually, her parents return and try to take measures in keeping their home safe from the monster. Does this movie not have a trailer? I can't find one. Just this one clip of this one scene. Someone help! I'm not sure if I could pretend to understand everything that was going on, but I gotta say, this was a pleasant surprise and I really like it. And it looks like I'm in the minority. I absolutely adore the mystery that is built up. Why is this girl alone? Where are her parents? What is this monster we keep not seeing? What's with the corpse of her brother? Then you're all like, ah, okay, it's all in her head. You didn't quite get me, movie. But then the parents show up and acknowledge that the monster is real, and suddenly, any preconceived notions about the flick are just thrown into a blender. But not with your hand in it. Watch the movie, you'll get the reference. And even once everything is revealed, it's not. Let me give you a non-spoiler. Ask the question, what is the monster? The movie basically answers with, bad. It's bad. There's a little more to it than that, but you get the idea. It gives answers in the form of ambiguity, and I kinda love it. Sheree Crooks as the titular character is so good. I was excited enough to see Grillo and Torv, both of whom I adore, but Crooks steals the show. Charming, funny, adorable, empathetic. I hope this girl goes on to do great movies. She was in Captain Fantastic, so it's a great start. I say give this a go and see how you feel about it. Maybe you'll like it, maybe not, but I sure as hell did. My honest rating for Stephanie, a strong 4 out of 5. Number 4. Silent Hill Revelation. Yeah, I swapped out Let the Right One In. I don't know, I feel like if I'm going to talk about that movie, I want it to be its own video. Instead, I decided to bite the bullet and check out the sequel to the not-so-great Silent Hill. Like the original, I have seen it, just it's been a while. And fuck if I can remember anything about it. I didn't even remember Carrie-Anne Moss was in it. And I love Carrie-Anne Moss. Here we go. 6 years after the first film, Sharon De Silva, now going by the alias Heather Mason, is on the run with her father Chris, now going by the alias Harry, after he had killed a man in what seemed like self-defense, but was actually part of a cult from Silent Hill called the Order. The running doesn't end up working as Sharon is discovered and Chris is kidnapped and taken to Silent Hill. She ventures back to her original home and encounters frightening monsters, vengeful spirits, and the Order, fighting to stay alive and find her father. Christ, there's a lot going on in this thing. Okay, like the first flick, I don't hate it per se, nor do I like it that much either. Let's start with the positives. The CGI, ironically, is better than the original, at least when compared to MJ Bassett's later works, like Rogue, where the CGI was atrocious. The acting is fine across the board, from star Adelaide Clemens to Carrie-Anne Moss, Sean Bean, and Kit Harington. Yes, that's Jon Snow before he was Jon Snow, and I enjoyed the practical effects when they were practical, as well as some of the creature designs, even the CG ones. Beyond all that, it bounces between being confusing or groan-worthy. Problem 1. We don't actually get to Silent Hill until 40 minutes in, nearly halfway through the damn thing, and we don't get our first monster until 50 minutes in, past the halfway mark. Yes, the disturbing imagery at the mall, the missionary that killed the private investigator, but those are cheap shots taking place somewhere that isn't even set in the name of the movie. As far as I'm concerned, doesn't count. And in that time to get there, it's full of cliches from other movie genres. Bad writing, stupid and even pointless characters, wasted talent from Malcolm McDowell, and really spends most of its time trying to explain everything that didn't make sense in the first film, which didn't help in understanding the secondary story about the Order trying to escape from Silent Hill. It's just a whole lot of I don't care. And those obvious 3D shots of shit lunging at you. In 3D, this would be annoying and gimmicky. In 2D, it's just annoying. I guess if you're into twisted creature features and don't care for story, then this might not be a terrible watch, but for fans of the franchise and general moviegoers, I wouldn't bother. My honest rating for Silent Hill Revelation, a 2 out of 5. Number 5. Lesbian Vampire Killers. Never seen it, but with a title like that, I'm either in for sheer pain or joy. I mean, I'm not a fan of James Corden, but we'll see what happens. After a brutal breakup with his on and off girlfriend, Jimmy and his best friend Fletch decide to get away from it all by going on a hike. Taking a pit stop to their destination at a local pub, the boys find themselves caught up in a possible resurrection of an ancient evil vampire queen, but think nothing of it. Meeting up with a small group of lady friends, Jimmy, Fletch, and the wholesome Lottie find out that the vampire legend is real, and many vampires turn the other girls and are gunning for the survivors. You know what? I'll be the last person to tell you that this is some hidden gem of self-aware comedy that you should check out, but for what it is, an exploitive, dumb, pretty sexist romp, I've seen far worse and got a few cheap laughs out of it. Make no mistake, the setup is by the numbers. You have a pathetic dude who can't let go of a hot girlfriend who wants nothing to do with him, but what I kind of enjoy about this is just how desperate and pathetic they make the girlfriend too. Yes, of course, you have a friend who is overly horny and just wants to get laid, but somehow James Corden made this work. Even in technically better films that he's been in, he's rarely made me laugh. But as previously stated, I got a few cheap laughs from him. There is a sense of comedic timing. There are a few pretty solid lines here and there, some well-executed visual gags, and what can I say? I got a chuckle. Yes, some jokes don't land. Yes, this is shamelessly misogynistic, and weirdly enough, it gets overly complex with its lore. Jesus fuck, you're a movie with a pair of losers killing overly sexualized lesbian vampires. You're not Lord of the Rings. Overall, it's definitely an acquired taste, so unless you're in the mood for a dumb but fun movie like this, I might actually recommend it for sheer ironic entertainment value. My honest rating for Lesbian Vampire Killers, a 4 out of 5. Number 6. An American Werewolf in London. Never seen it, but oh boy can I not stop hearing about it. The makeup and transformation effects have been praised for as long as I can recall. It sounded like I was missing out, so it's time to fix that. David and Jack are backpacking around England, but their trip takes a nasty turn when they are attacked by a werewolf. Jack unfortunately dies in the attack, but David survives after rescuers kill the werewolf. Though David makes a recovery and even finds romance in his nurse, Alex, he is haunted by the ghostly image of Jack, who tells him that the only way he can rest is if the werewolf line dies, and David being the last one. Also, he'll end up killing people if he doesn't kill himself. Yup. Everything said about this flick is absolutely correct. This was a good-ass movie. Obviously, the most famous element is the werewolf transformation, and I have to say, this is hands down the best werewolf transformation that I've ever seen. The praise is warranted without a shadow of a doubt. I would also like to spotlight everything surrounding it, which is also phenomenal. I love the chemistry between David and Jack. By the way, that undead makeup when we first see Jack is so gruesome and convincing. By the way, Dark Universe's The Mummy, eat your heart out. There's some fun humor, some satisfying violence, the relationship between David and Alex is pretty cute, albeit a wee bit rushed, and there's a great build-up to the climax, and I honestly didn't know how this would be resolved. The only thing I truly didn't like, which is closer to a nitpick than anything else, is how the movie just sort of stops rather than ends. And I also don't quite understand why the first werewolf was such a taboo fear for the bar patrons. Like, what happens if they tell strangers, hey, there's a big wolf that's killing people out there? Best stay in here for the night? I don't know, that didn't sit right with me and didn't make much sense. But I really dug this movie as a whole and highly recommend people to watch it if you've been missing out like I was. My honest rating for An American Werewolf in London, a strong 4 out of 5. And last but not least, number 7, Happy Death Day. I have seen this one, actually. I just don't remember liking it. At least not as much as other people seem to. Personally, I prefer the sequel. I just remember this movie taking itself too seriously for how silly the concept was. I mean, I acknowledge that this movie does, at points, have fun with itself, but people were making it out to be like the self-aware comedy was the movie. And I just remember that being in the middle, where the movie was at its best. Freaking great, man. Another movie that I have to re-watch and make sure that I actually didn't like it. It's Tree Gelman's birthday, and she's not having a happy one, treating everyone like crap with only a standard party to look forward to at night. However, on the way to that party, she's murdered by someone with a babyface mask. Thing is, she wakes up in the same bed that she did the previous morning, experiencing the same day again. Soon, it's suggested that the only way to break the time loop is to solve her own murder, while confronting her own personal demons in the process. Well, I definitely like it more than I did before. You know what it is? I think it's because I've grown to really enjoy Jessica Roth, who I find to be really charming and can really carry a film, even in her worst movies. So that really helped. I also enjoy Tree's character arc, probably one of the best I've seen in all these movies that I've seen this month. Starting off flawlessly as this obnoxious mean girl that would be the villain in any other movie, but as this chaos continues to happen to her, she slowly begins to realize that as well, and gradually becomes a more sympathetic character. Some good writing, likable characters, and a solid mystery, I found myself more entertained this go around. I do have a few negatives, though granted they're nitpicks. In time loop movies like this that repeat a lot of the same lines and actions, there's always a timing issue that's always off. If Tree rushes out of the dorm room, then everything she encounters, from the car alarm to the sprinklers, she should be experiencing those moments later, not as she's passing by them. I also don't know how I feel about her constantly screaming when the killer finds her. Chances are, you'd think that it was just routine. But my biggest issue, every time she comes back, she gets weaker. Problem is, I don't think it amounts to much, as she looks more tired than beaten down. I think this would have been more effective if she had a limp or something to show that she's literally in pain. I just think by the end of it, she seemed fine. Overall, still a more solid flick than I remember, and highly recommended to anyone. My honest rating for Happy Death Day, a 4 out of 5. Thanks so much for watching it, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy out there. Please wear a mask if you go out. Hope to see you soon.